Okay,
So
well then I will call to order the meeting and request for roll call.
Director Daniels,
yes,
Vice President LeHue,
I'm here.
Director Jaffe,
You're muted, Bruce.
Present.
Director Christensen. Oh, she just
Here.
Yeah.
great. And President Lather.
Here. So the first item is to ask for public comment on the closed session item, correct?
yep.
Okay,
Ms. Steinbrenner, you've been unmuted. You have 2 minutes.
it looks like she's muted.
She has to unmute herself because she's on a telephone.
Oh, okay.
Hello, this is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about what you're going to discuss in closed session. I do see item 1.1 refers to the litigation that I have brought. And again, I want to say that I don't like doing this. It's the only option I have. And it is not just me. I am speaking for many, many people in the community. I will continue to fight this, but I last meeting offered an olive branch and asked for the opportunity to at least sit at to negotiate, to discuss negotiating a settlement, and no one has contacted me. That's disappointing because I've made an effort, but I will continue to fight this with all the fervor, and I'm disappointed in the district's lack of reaching out to at least discuss an opportunity that I've presented, and also by continuing to go without a subsequent EIR when the project has made very substantial changes, including one that would increase greenhouse gases. You're all interested in the environment. What are you doing here? It would put a high level of chloramine that if there is ever a leak in any of the waterways, it would kill the aquatic organisms. You're all scientists and environmentalists. What are you doing here? Please, let's at least sit down and talk about this and try to have some respect for community concern and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Steinbrenner. So we will now close the public session and go into closed section.
Hey, Becca, can you make me co-host again, please? Thanks.
Okay, it looks like we've got everybody here. So I'm going to reopen the public meeting the public meeting. And do I report that there's nothing to report out from the closed section? Or is that you, Josh?
President Lather, either of us can. So yeah, there no reportable action.
Okay. And there's no public hearing today.
Why don't you announce no 7.3?
I'm going to. Sorry. We've also, item 7.3 is going to be pulled and will not be discussed today. It'll be removed from the agenda. And so now we can move to announcements by board members. Is that right?
Mhm.
I have
Yes.
my list and it's somehow being blocked by the Zoom meeting. So sorry about that. Oh my God, there's a skunk at my door. Okay, so do we have any announcements?
I don't want to pull anything. It's Bruce. D.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, I got my instructions over here now. Sorry about that. Does anybody have an item? Bruce Jaffe, are you interested in pulling any items from the agenda, the
I'm not.
consent agenda?
No.
Okay. And I think we have Carla here. Carla,
Yes.
Director Christensen?
Oh, I'm not going to pull any items from the consent agenda, but I just want to note I was checking my email and the water reuse has some webinars. They're also advertising their meeting that's coming up, the spring meeting. But there were some webinars that were actually just an hour, 2 hours long on stormwater, which is tomorrow.
Oh,
Yes, stormwater approaches, and then another one in a couple weeks. It's public outreach. Different. I don't know. Maybe Melanie is already talking on that. I don't know. But anyway, it's February 17th at 11 o'clock, and I'm sure you all got the email, but you might want to check those out. They're free for members. So, and Soquel Water District is a member. So anyway.
Tom?
Nope, nothing to add.
Okay, so
Question is this where board members can make comments, or is that later? On non-consent items.
Oh, I thought we were on comments.
yeah,
already.
we're on
I thought we skipped over that. Sorry.
3 would be announcements by board members.
For items for the consent agenda.
Yeah, just for removal from the consent agenda. Though.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Well, anyway, just move those comments to the oral part of communications.
Okay,
Don't just say it twice.
I'm trying to see what, for some reason I'm confused today. Okay, so we're on to the consent agenda. And we haven't removed any items from the consent agenda, but we do, I believe, have a request to speak from the public on the consent agenda.
Correct, we have one. Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Hello, this is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to point out in terms of special projects, item 4.3, that now that your district has again increased the rates, your rates now qualify for a 50% credit if AB 401 is enacted. You're putting a tremendous financial burden on your customers with your will to impose the Pure Water Soquel project, and I hope that you will pursue getting some financial help, sending some bills, some letters to congressmen to enact AB 401 would be very prudent and responsible of you, and I encourage you to do that. I want to say on item 4.4, I found that report very interesting, and thank you for putting that together. What I would ask is that the graphs of the different production capacities for different wells be put in on the same levels of the specific capacity. It makes them all look the same when in fact there is widely varied capacities and productions within them. I have a question about the Aptos Creek well. It is on standby, but yet leasing the land every month, I see that I think it's $500 a month you pay Mr. Fang, I think his name is. I wonder why you don't just abandon it. And I'm curious why the Granite Way well is such a low producer. It's the second lowest production in all of your wells, yet it is the newest. And I'd like to understand why that is. I do note on page 39 that
Thank you. That's your
your
time, Ms.
district
Steinbruner.
had
Thank you.
adequate source.
Okay. So we are on the consent agenda.
I would move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you
I'll
very
second.
Uh,
Thank you,
let Carla
Carla.
have it. Carla seconded.
Roll call, Director Daniels,
Yes, please.
Vice President LaHue,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Lather.
Yes. So now we're on to oral and written communications. Does anybody have something to talk about?
We have one public comment from a public member.
Anyone else? No? Okay, so let's take the oral and written communications from Ms. Steinbruner. Please unmute her.
Yes.
This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I was cut off mid-sentence. I'd like to finish what I started on item 4.4 on page 39. It does state in your report that in 2019, the district had adequate source capacity to meet the 10-year peak hour demand of 1.4 million gallons. I think that's notable, and I just really wanted to make that part of the record. I hope that your board would consider writing to the Department of Water Resources to support getting a coarse grid AEM study funded by the state. They have money they're putting forward for that under Prop 68, and ask for that to support getting a coarse grid AEM study for your service district areas, but also the mid-county areas. It is to support disadvantaged communities. Notably, the Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board last week approved a document in item number 7 on their agenda that Capitola, Soquel, Santa Cruz, Twin Lakes, are all considered disadvantaged communities. I really found Capitola a real head scratcher, but it's on the list. You can look it up in their January 29th agenda, number 7. I also want to point out that the Pajaro Valley Water District is really great, putting a lot of money toward conservation. They find that is the most cost-effective method of helping the groundwater issues. They also are putting in some new slough recharge. As you know, they've extended the purple pipe further up toward your service district for recycled water. And I would encourage you, with the Pure Water Soquel project, if it indeed is built, to consider working in partnership with Pajaro Valley Water Management Agency to supply them recycled water for irrigation of their crops. I would
30
also
seconds.
like to see more water used for irrigation. Certainly in your Service District 4, there are broad swaths of green belts that could be using recycled water rather than pressure injecting it into the aquifer and possibly polluting the aquifer. Thank you.
Okay, so that is done. So we can move on to reports. There's no reports. Administrative business. Is that Ron?
No, it's me.
Oh, hi, Taj.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So just as a reminder, will serve letters don't typically come to the board if they're less than 1 acre foot. But this one has already been to the board 2 years ago. And so we're bringing it back because there's been some slight changes to the lot sizes, nothing major. It's still 11 lots in Soquel. And so this is it'll be a redevelopment of an existing lot that currently has 1 water meter that is going to be subdivided into 11 lots. I'm available. There will be a minor main extension that'll be required in order to serve these 11 lots. But also the initial payment didn't include, they got a credit for the Go Green, but that is now paid up front now that this is a revised service application that we don't give credits for Go Green up front anymore. And so that gives the district a little more leverage, but they're still committing to it. It's just we won't give them the credit until they actually do it. Any questions on this?
Are there public comments first?
Yeah.
There's one public comment.
Okay, let's get the public comment. Please unmute Ms. Steinbruner.
Ms. Steinbruner?
Hi, this is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to ask why this developer is not being given the same privilege that your board enacted and reaffirmed for the Aptos Village project developers, notably the Swenson Development firm. You reaffirmed that really nice privilege on December 15th of 2020 to not make them pay everything up front. So in essence, you did give them the full credit for the Go Green in advance, but you're not extending those privileges to this developer. I would like some discussion about that, why you would not make the Swenson developers pay all the fees up front, and yet this developer has to. I'd like some discussion about that, please. Thank you.
Okay, so now I am requesting comments, questions from directors, starting with Director Daniels.
Well, I noticed that it was done 2 years ago, So interestingly, this is not a renewal. It's a brand new application. That's why we're charging them $300 will serve application fee, I think. So that's one of the things I noted. Otherwise, it's kind of like what we looked at 2 years ago.
Vice President LaHue, sorry, Tom.
No, no particular questions. I'm good.
Director Jaffe?
Yeah, the question about the main extension. Taj, is that, who bears the cost for that?
The developer will.
Okay, and then we just ensure that it will be done to our specifications or requirements.
That's correct. They bear the actual construction costs, but they also cover inspection and engineering administration costs throughout the project. So the district doesn't incur any costs associated with that project. And in the end, we will accept the main extension into our system, and the meters and the fire hydrant and things like that.
Okay. That was my only question. I do hear your comment, Becky, and there are differences between these projects. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, Director Christensen?
Well, yeah, that was just my question. I couldn't quite remember. I knew that comment would come up and I couldn't quite remember. So thanks, Bruce, for pointing that out. Bruce Daniels for pointing that out to me, and reminding me of that. That was the only question. And I was just curious about why the lot changed. I guess that's what makes it another point that makes it a new project, or it's a new petition.
Anytime there's an increase in water demand offset, and some of the lots got a little bigger, it's just a matter of how they're sizing each lot. It triggered some of the lots to increase in water demand offset just marginally. They got bumped up into the next category, but that's the only reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm glad to see they were going green. It seemed like that was a real omission in some of these last projects that we've been looking at over the last year. So appreciate that too. So I guess that's my question.
Okay, and I have nothing to add to it. So is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call. Director Daniels,
No,
Vice President LaHue,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
President Lather.
Yes. So now we're moving on to, we've pulled item 7.3, so we're moving on to consent agenda items. If pulled and they were not.
7.2.
Oh, is there a 7.2? Sorry.
7.3.
Yeah. It's 7.2. Sorry about that. Hey, I'm new. This is only my second meeting, so or maybe it's my third.
You're doing great. Yes, this
Okay,
is
so we're
Ron.
on the modification of district procedure policy regarding costs for non-use of existing meters and abandonment of existing water services.
Thank you, President Lather. This is Ron. I'll take this. Yes, and 7.3 has been removed, so this will be the last item. I will note that Mr. David Byron is on the phone, I believe. I think I saw him on here, and he did request to speak tonight. Because he has a vested interest in this, it's the board's prerogative whether they want to allow him to have more than 2 minutes when the item that kind of pertains to him in the sense of why we brought it to the board's attention. And I know the board often does that, allow a little bit more time in these situations. So I'll just put that out there. And David, I know you're online. So the way this works is I'll give a presentation, and then they'll open it up to public comment. You get a chance to share your viewpoints and that sort of thing. And then the board will go back and discuss it amongst themselves and make a decision. So this item, Mr. Byron has been talking to us over several years. He belongs to 2 HOAs, I believe, and neither one wants their irrigation meters anymore or services. And so what he's asked is not to have to pay for the meter if they're not going to use it in there. And so that's the first item. And the board actually considered this item a while back, as noticed in the memo. Let's see, it was March 1st, 2013. And the board said no, because there's a cost associated when a meter's in the ground. We still got to check up on it. It's hot in the sense that it could be used anytime. So there's that expense of keeping water ready. If something happens, we have to go out there and look at it, that sort of thing. So that was the decision the board reached back in 2013, and we noticed it in Prop 218 notifications in the mailer back then. So that's my understanding of Mr. Byron. He can certainly correct me if I'm wrong. I tried to distill down what his interests were. So if the board decided not to go that direction, then the second thing that he was requesting was, well, then just take the whole thing out. Take the meter out, take the service line back out to our main, right? And that's where I've attached some of the general principles associated, the overarching ordinances related to the district that basically says that, just as you discussed in the previous item, the customer pays to have that line installed, the meter and whatnot. And we can't just take the meter out. We could, but we'd be leaving a hot line in there, and staff highly recommends against that, because now we've got kind of a loose cannon, if you will, that could leak, and we would never know it because it's out there on the end without a meter, unless we dug it up or saw it spouting up water or something like that. So our practice, and we've used this with other people, is they pay the cost, and a typical cost is around $5,000. It can vary depending on the situation. Is we remove the line back to our main, or a contractor does it, I believe, and the customer or applicant pays for that. So we don't have any buried active service lines that go unnoticed, unmetered, and that sort of thing. So those are the two things, my understanding, that Mr. Byron was asking for. And, staff always looks at these things as, I personally put a lot of time in this, so did Leslie and Taj. Is there, one of our mantras is, if there's a way to find a benefit to the customer that doesn't impinge on others and that is fair, kind of the customer advocate approach, we do it. In this case, we searched and we didn't see anything that would give the board leverage to be able to do that, in our opinion. So we're recommending the continue of these past practices and not modifying the policy. So that's all I have. Be glad to answer questions, I believe, after Mr. Byron has an opportunity to share his viewpoints and thoughts.
We have 2 public comments. We also have
Okay.
Ms. Steinbruner.
Okay.
Let's start with Ms. Steinbruner's comment first, please, Becca.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Ms. Steinbruner?
I would like to hear the other Mr. Byers' comment before I comment. Would you please accept my request to go after him? Hello?
President
Please,
Laser?
Oh, sorry about that. Sure. Let
Thank you. I would like to hear what the customer has to say before I comment. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll step behind Mr. Byer and appreciate your doing that. Thank you.
How much time are we allowing for this comment?
Mr. Byron, do you think you can do this in 2 minutes or do you want 3?
Oh, I would like to have 3 if that's possible.
Okay. So go ahead. It's going to start right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hearing me tonight. And it was interesting to, I think that was Mr. Duncan, right? Who I was listening to. So basically, we came to the conclusion with these associations that we don't really necessarily want to get rid of the meters, but coming from a customer's perspective and not knowing everything about the water district is during that particular time frame, you know, not 2014, 15, maybe even back to 2013. Here we are in this serious drought. And what we determined in 2 different associations, of which I am an owner of both of these properties, was that we could manage with 0 water. And so from a customer standpoint, we're looking at the situation like, we're doing you a favor. You're in a water emergency, and we found a way to absolutely cut off the water. So what I would really like to be able to do, and I understand listening to what you're saying, is that the meter it remains active and it requires maintenance, etc. But if we can bring to the table that we are going to use 0 water, and we are literally at one of the associations, we actually have the water meter turned off at the source. We use 0 water. It would be really, I think, really great to see the district work with us to give us some really great reduction of costs, like maybe, you know, a $15 a month service charge just to keep it active if we are going to use 0 water. And I just think that that's, wow. I mean, I think in the situation, in the emergency water situation that the Soquel, the water district is in, this is a win-win. This is a positive thing. We don't want to pay $60 a month for water we don't want or we do not use. I'm done.
Well, you made it in 2 minutes.
I did. Thank you.
So now we will have Ms. Steinbrunner speak.
Hello, this is Becky Steinbrunner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate the ability to hear the customer before I commented, because he did answer my question, how much is the monthly service charge? $60 a month is a lot of money, and as he pointed out, they're doing the district a favor by using 0 water. I wonder why the district insists that it would have to be your personnel that would remove the meter back to the main. I believe I have been told by your staff that customers, when they get new service installations, can have a qualified plumber put it in, and then your district simply checks it. So why can't this customer do the same? There are other areas, and I'm not sure where this customer lives, but I know people in the Seascape area, and the whole median there is not being watered at all, and yet that also is having to pay for a monthly service fee. I think it would behoove the district to look at more cases like Mr. Byron's and encourage large homeowner groups to go to 0 water, with the incentive that they would, as he suggests, either get a price reduction or be able to remove the meter and the service line completely.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Using their own contractors that would possibly be cheaper than the $5,000 the district staff would charge. And I also want to point out that this is exactly what happened in the Aptos Village project on Granite Way. There was a line that went out illegally and supplied construction water for almost a year to the district, and nobody did anything about that. So please work with these good people and give them incentive to continue to reduce water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops, I thought my mic was turned on. Okay, so there's no other public comments, so we can bring it back to the board.
And President Lather, this is Ron. The second speaker, I thought I made myself clear, but she was not accurate. We do allow our customers to hire somebody else to take out the line if they like. It's generally that we're less expensive. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Thank you. And is the monthly fee $60?
I'm not sure it is that way. It's based on the meter size, and I don't have that at my tip of my hands.
Yeah, because it's basically the basic part of the fee and not the
Right, based on the
volume.
size of the line, the bigger the line, the more capacity that has to be developed to supply that line, and hence the higher fee. So that sounds like a little larger line than average, than a single family home, for example.
For a 5/8 inch dedicated irrigation meter and a 3/4 inch dedicated irrigation meter, the monthly service charge is $59.08.
Thank you, Shelley. So, and I would also like to point out, any work that, I just want to be clear, and we are about helping customers, but any cost that is not incurred by one customer is then based and spread out amongst the other customers.
Well,
So-
the other thing I don't like is to set precedent, because all of a sudden then our rules for this don't mean anything. And we've been criticized for doing something different than what our precedent is. And now we're being asked to do something that's special treatment to a specific customer. So I have some issues with that, because it's kind of hypocritical in a way. And I think we need to look at this from a big picture standpoint. So Director Daniels, do you have anything to say?
A few things. First of all, it mentions there that I had it brought to me, and indeed I thought it should not be a special thing, but rather if we were to do this, it should be a new condition, because there's nothing special about this that other customers don't have. So if we were to do it, we should do it for everybody. And I agree with that. Also, it seems that I was wondering if there are any rebates we have that would support this, because indeed people pulling out their irrigation systems probably would save us some water, and that's a good thing. So helping them do that would be nice. But I don't see that us spending a lot of money to, support various individuals is going to be a good thing. I mean, $5,000 is a good chunk just to take out an irrigation unit, and so I think splitting the cost kind of a thing might be something to think about. So I guess those are my thoughts about this.
Vice President LaHue.
Yeah, clearly, I mean, I always want to make sure we're being fair to all of our customers, so we can't just issue a variance. So I think the question is, I don't have an idea how many people are in this same situation. We'd have to be treating everyone fairly, and it would have to be brought back to us to say, okay, everybody with an irrigation meter or any kind of meter they want off, how are we going to deal with that? Are we going to have, I mean, it would have to be brought back to us as a proposed change to this whole process of what we do with meters that are not functioning. So I guess I would need some more information to know, clearly we can't do anything specific for this person. But I would need more information, like how many of these are out there, and have everybody come up with like some suggestions for what could be done.
Okay, Director Jaffe.
Well, I have no problem if the customer wants to remove the meter at their own costs in a way that's acceptable to the district, with that occurring. But apparently it would be expensive. And I do have a problem just leaving a meter in with with no monitoring of it because of leaks. I think there might be a middle ground where as the customer said, if there was some fee that was charged that gives the ability to monitor and see that there aren't any leaks. That might be a middle ground. But one of the concerns I have is, what if next year they say, oh, we really do need to irrigate? We open up a can of worms here saying that there's different status for different meters. And should that be only irrigation meters? Or, let's say somebody has a vacation home here and 3 months out of the year they're here and 9 months out of the year they're not. Do we allow that same privilege to them? That they can just say, oh no, we're not using any water, and so we shouldn't pay anything. So I don't have a real set solution, but those are just my questions.
Okay, Director Christensen.
Yeah, I would probably be to take no action at this time, because I don't think we have enough information to decide whether we should change the policy. And I don't think we can make an ad hoc decision to just decide and give one person a variance, one group of variance on this. There is a benefit to not using water. For the HOA anyway, they save a whole lot of money on water charges too. So there is a benefit to conserving the water for the owners too of the HOAs. So we shouldn't really neglect that either. It is beneficial. I stopped watering my yard mostly, and I'm in tier 1 on my residential, my house. So my house water bill. So yeah, I recognize that there is a significant cost savings to just not watering outside. But I would still recommend taking no action right now on this, that our current policy is fair and appropriate as far as we know.
Thank you. I look at it because I've done rates before, and once you start messing with the fixed fee, then you have to mess with it for everybody, not just in that class, because it all adds up to the total. And I know that we can reduce it without going through Prop 218, I think, but then there's a whole issue of fairness for everybody else. And I'm if we're going to come back and have more information, I think we need to look at that too. And the legality of changing something that was determined through a complete analysis for rates. So anyway, I take it, is there a motion? And if there's no motion,
Only
We're
be a
going
motion.
for number 2, I think, moving for number 2.
Yeah, you do not have to take any action, and by default, that would be number 2. Is that correct, Josh?
That's correct.
Do we want this to come back with additional information?
yeah. We could direct staff to come back with additional information rather than taking a motion.
Right. Either way, you do it by motion or direction, whatever, regarding bringing it back, we're certainly happy to do that. But it'd be nice to hear
Specifically what?
what you would like to have brought back.
Well, I'd like to get staff's input on whether or not it would be feasible to have a reduced charge.
Okay.
like was asked for if you're not using the water. And I think there would have to be a agreement of of a time frame.
Are we talking about limiting it to irrigation meters only?
Yeah.
That might be the simplest.
Yeah.
Okay. And I also heard how many of these might be out there in the similar vein, if any, is that correct?
Implications, which
Okay.
include how many,
Okay.
I think one thing we've all decided is that we would like it to either apply to everybody or not at all. So
Sure.
it's a new policy that applies to everybody
Right.
that wants to take advantage of it anyway.
And we have to also somehow figure out the question that I forget whether Bruce brought up about, could they just start up again at any point? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, because it's just there.
Well, it wouldn't be there. That's one thing we know.
Yeah, it's there and it's ready to go anytime they want.
No, we didn't have that though. That's what we're not approving it right now.
What was brought in front of us was to take out the meter and the line and not charge them for it. And so I think the consideration was if someone were to want to remove the service completely, what kind of cost would that make sense?
And I'd also like to know whether it's feasible just to basically cap off the line to the meter, not physically take things out and cap it off at where the line connects to our mains, so that whether that would be sufficient or whether there are problems with that.
Well, staff has already mentioned that if you do that and the line, which is sitting there, all by itself, starts leaking, you have no way to know that.
But if it's done at where it hits the main, there'd be no water in the line. It'd just be capped off.
Yeah, so you leave the little lateral in the ground, I think is what you're suggesting, Dr. Jaffe.
That might decrease the cost. And
yeah.
So I see the advantage of them not using water. I recognize that.
May I make a suggestion for the board to entertain? Because this seems to be intertwined with Prop 218, and we're just getting started on the journey of starting to form a committee to look at the next rate evaluation. I would think this would be the type of thing that would want to be considered in that, which would mean a delay on the decision about that, but it could be incorporated into the rate study, which is still a little ways out. But I have a feeling because if you reduce the cost or somehow in any manner, it becomes part of, in the next rate study, burdened by the distributed amongst the others. So I guess I'm going to ask, would the board entertain that, bringing these things back to during the next rate study, or do you want to see it before then?
How many years would that be then?
Leslie, can you give me it about 2 years? We'll start the process. Well, you're going to start getting info on how you want to move forward here real soon with the rate study, and the rate study that would go out in 2024. So 2 or 3 years.
What
Rate
about
studies in 2023?
What about the offset rebate? Some sort of turning that into a rebate. I remember when I first joined the board, we were giving rebates for people taking out their lawn sprinklers and things. I don't know whether that's feasible. I'm not recommending that we adopt that, but I'm just I was thinking of that as an alternative way to help defray the cost of removing the line.
A rebate towards towards removal of an irrigation line. That's not a bad idea in that it takes care of the situation in an appropriate manner and also encourages low water use or none.
Well, it fits into that program a little.
What was it? Was it a 50% rebate or something?
I don't remember.
It's varied over time, President Lather, the turf rebate. I think it was at $2 at one point. It's down to, Shelley chime in, but $1 per square foot with certain limitations on it, of course.
Correct. It's $1 per square foot. Up to 50% of the total cost.
With a cap on the total cost
Yeah, that
rebated.
It could be a flat amount too,
Yeah.
just to encourage it and make it a little more, that's a simple solution without impacting 218 and rates and so forth.
Mhm. Could be available to all customers.
Right, because you could make it available to everyone.
Yeah,
It'd
because
basically just be a new rebate.
Removal of irrigation lines.
Yep.
Irrigation meter. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, with caveats, will not irrigate that area with other like home service water and that sort of thing.
How would you know that wouldn't happen?
Well, I would think that'd be part of the documentation and signing off by the customer if they wanted to take advantage of the rebate. So I think I'm hearing the board would like to direct staff to come back with a limited scope with a potential rebate for removal of irrigation lines. And before the next rate increase or not rate increase, but rate study that we do. I am noting here also, though, any rebates also affect all the other customers, right? But it's
Right.
open to everybody. So I'm sure we're all cognizant of that.
I personally don't like special treatment.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure that what we come up with is something that's available to others.
Right. And I don't think Mr. Byron did either. That's why I think we kind of jointly said, this isn't best dressed as a variance. Didn't seem right, and more on a policy level, if you will.
And I'd like to know whether it's feasible to just cap it at the main and leave
Yeah, that'd be good to
meter
know.
and the line in, whether that would reduce the costs or whether enough that's attractive.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
And
Well, that could be
there's
part of the
problems with that.
That could be part of the rebate, looking at that, doing that and getting half the cost paid.
Okay. Well, excellent. I think we'll put it on our action item list to come back to the board to discuss this specific item, removal of irrigation line with a flavor toward a rebate, or if you can cap it at the main, and what's the cost of that and associated pros and cons of leaving the little lateral in there, and anything else we think is appropriate.
I guess I think it is probably smart to not mess with the water, the fee, the service fee out of context with the rest of the rates. So that idea, I think, could wait.
Okay.
Everybody else,
And I'm just looking at my notes here. I will say that, just to be clear, that so you don't get surprised later, the cost of $5,000 is really the cost to dig it up at the main. We never do remove the service line.
Okay.
So Dr.
didn't realize
Jaffe,
that.
yeah, I didn't realize that either, but I'm getting that information. So that's that. Would be more back to the rebate concept, I believe.
Okay.
All right, so we'll come back at if the board wants to make a motion to direct staff to come back at a future board meeting regarding potential rebate for removal of meter and irrigation lines that no longer are desired by the customer, something along those lines.
Is that a motion, Ron?
No, I'm just trying to help.
No, I think
I just wonder if somebody really if that's really what is wanted, because 8 years from now, okay, let's say it costs 5,000. It takes 8 years in service charges to before, and by that, before you break even on that 5,000. And at that point, who knows where they'll be?
Right. And this is why I like the board to tell us, and I think Director Christensen mentioned, to kind of not try to solve it on the spot. There's a whole host of things. What about the WDO? If you take that out and you're not paying and you try to hook it back up, or if the program is still invoked at that time, are you subject to those costs? So we'll look at it as many angles as we can.
Yeah.
So a customer trying to take that route goes into it with eyes wide open, knowing all the
Well,
implications.
Ron, there should be something in the proposal that says they have to leave it unused for at least 10 years before they can come back and request service or something like that.
Okay.
One other
Tom,
thing,
sorry.
I just wanted to make sure we also look at the fairness issue, because by only doing it for people who have irrigation meters, does that favor a certain customer class?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, we'll definitely work with legal on this.
Because we got to be fair to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
homes don't have an irrigation meter.
yeah. It leads to all kinds of questions. What happens if somebody says they're not going to water their outdoors? Does that change the rules for them?
Do we have to be the watering police?
So do you want a motion, Ron?
You can do it by direction. I that's what I was trying to capture it. If the board wants to direct staff, it doesn't have to be by motion, but to bring this concept back of if a customer wants to remove an irrigation meter and line or cap it at the thing, which is what we do. I might not should use the word remove the line. Is there a way, like through a rebate, to incentivize that action and bring back the pros and cons and other things that may be subject to that would be prudent to make the customer aware of, such as the WDO program? Is that, I think I've got that in my notes. I'm sure Emma does. Did I capture everybody?
Yeah, but it might be captured in the next rate study too. Just consider, now that we have smart meters going on here, we might be able to distinguish really easily outdoor and indoor use, and change the way our rate structure is going. A lot of things will happen in a couple of years. The next time this comes in, and I feel really leery about changing the policy right now because it's pretty clear cut at the moment. And it's fair to everybody too.
All right, well, I am going to look at maybe.
Definitely research it, but let's just be careful about messing with it yet.
Okay. So I will look to the board. Maybe it is, if you want to make a motion, maybe it's better put that way because I can see all the different sides, and I just want to be clear in the way we're going.
Okay. Okay, so is there a motion?
I've had, mine was number 2, take no action at this moment.
But as far as a motion to bring the information back about possible rebates or some incentive to removal of an irrigation service, I will make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second that motion. I'd hate to put a time deadline on it though. That's all.
I didn't.
Yeah. Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
So
Emma?
roll call. Director Daniels,
Yes, please.
Vice President LaHue,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Lather.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the next item is adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second. So the meeting is adjourned unless somebody tells me I missed something.
I think we're good. Thank you.
We're
Okay,
good.
great. Thank you
Bye,
all.
everybody.